When the Black Ops interrogator returns home and finds his parents brutally murdered, he refuses to wait for the police. He starts the hunt in his own way, a way no one has ever seen, where even the police refuse to get in his way.
Literally, I could put anything in there.
Our story opens with a plane landing. A man sits in a car, clearly devastated. His name is Jimmy Vickers. He drives slowly into the city, replaying a voicemail from his mother over and over. One where she tells him she's waiting for him. When he finally gets home, he receives a message from his friend Griffin, telling him that what had to happen has already happened, and that he needs to take care of himself now. We understand Jimmy has lost someone deeply important to him, and he's determined to get to the bottom of exactly what happened. Jimmy heads to a local newspaper office and starts questioning the two people working there, a woman named Debs and a man named Terry. Both claim they don't know anything, and Terry rudely tells him to leave if he's just here to cause trouble. Jimmy laughs bitterly, pointing out that his childhood home is only 50 steps from this very building. Where his parents lived, surely if they'd screamed, someone here would have heard something. Terry starts getting aggressive, and Jimmy grabs him and starts beating him. A group of men rush in to stop him, but Jimmy, revealed to be a former elite special ops officer, takes them all down one by one with ease.
Jimmy, don't!
Once things settle, Terry finally breaks and admits the truth. That night, he'd seen 4 men approaching Jimmy's parents' house. Shortly after, they broke down the door and went inside. He heard Jimmy's father screaming, but he was too terrified to go help. Jimmy now understands his parents' deaths weren't an accident. They were murdered. He returns to his childhood home and walks into the garage, which is completely burned out, the exact place where his parents died. Overwhelmed, Jimmy breaks down crying, picking up a photo of them, consumed with grief. The story shifts into a flashback. We meet Jimmy's parents, his father George and his mother, preparing the house for Jimmy's return, wanting everything to look exactly as it did before. Meanwhile, we see 4 drunk, drugged-up men sitting in a car, watching a house across the street. They know a young woman living there collects money daily to deposit at the bank, and they're waiting for her. The moment she steps outside, they pull on rabbit masks, follow her, and block her car with theirs. They drag her out, searching for money they never find, and start to assault her.
Where's the money, Beth? It's not in it, Beth. She must have it.
That's when George arrives on the scene. Seeing the men harassing her, he steps out of his car. They warn him to walk away, but George refuses to back down. One of them attacks him, but George, clearly capable of defending himself, fights back hard and beats him badly.
Get back in the fucking car!
The rest pull knives, but seeing people starting to gather and watch, they panic and flee, leaving their friend lying unconscious on the ground from George's baseball bat. Police arrive and take the young woman's statement. They discover the beaten man is actually dead. The officer in charge, Hollick, informs George he's now facing murder charges. George insists he never meant to kill him, he was only trying to stop them from hurting that woman. Hollick tells him it doesn't matter now. He's going to jail regardless. Meanwhile, the surviving 3 attackers report back to their boss, Warren, admitting they got no money and that a stranger intervened. Warren realizes his own brother is the one missing, and when they explain what happened to him, he becomes enraged, declaring that an ordinary man killed his brother, and vowing they won't rest until George is dead. The 4 of them head straight to George's house and wait for him to return from jail. He makes bail by evening and comes home, unaware they're waiting. They break in, blindside him through the peephole, badly injuring his eye, then storm inside. One man grabs George's wife and begins assaulting her while the others torture George, repeatedly telling him he brought this on himself by playing hero. Eventually, they drag both George and his wife into the garage, tie them to chairs, and douse them in gasoline. Warren tells George that since he killed his brother, his death will be especially painful. and gives him a final moment to think of someone he loves before setting them both on fire. The story returns to the present, where Jimmy stands in that same garage, remembering everything. His friend Griffin, a police officer, arrives and explains that a neighbor reported seeing a black BMW that night. Though they couldn't make out the plates, meaning there's still no solid evidence, though they're reviewing every nearby camera. Jimmy, unmoved by any of this, leaves in tears. The next morning, he stands for hours at his parents' grave. He gets a message from his wife Morgan, asking to meet at the church. Morgan had actually been planning to divorce Jimmy, but this tragedy has softened her toward him. She explains she'd tried reaching him 5 times before the funeral with no response, and reassures him she's still there for him, that he doesn't need to isolate himself through this. Jimmy doesn't respond to any of it and simply walks away, despite her repeated insistence that she's there for him. Griffin calls him shortly after with a break. In the case, they've identified the owner of the black BMW as Warren, the very man whose brother George killed. Griffin hands Jimmy a copy of the security footage. That night, we see Warren leaving the gym, getting into his car only for another vehicle to ram into it from behind. Furious, he steps out to confront the driver and discovers it's Jimmy. Not realizing who he's dealing with, Warren starts hurling insults. Jimmy attacks him, and despite putting up a fight, Warren is completely outmatched by a trained officer. Jimmy beats him down and drags him away. Warren wakes up hours later, tied up inside his own car, with Jimmy pouring gasoline over him. Terrified, he starts screaming.
Do you know who the fuck I am? Are you a big man?
Jimmy calmly asks if he remembers the 2 people he burned alive. Jimmy is their son. Rather than showing remorse, Warren laughs, saying he doesn't regret it at all, and even reveals he raped Jimmy's mother. Enraged, Jimmy gives him one way out: write down the names of the rest of his gang. Warren complies, listing every name. The moment Jimmy has the list, he sets Warren on fire and Jimmy then goes to see Morgan. As they talk, she notices blood on his shirt from a stomach wound and tends to it, stitching him up. In this vulnerable moment, despite their pending divorce and long estrangement, the two grow close again and spend the night together. The next day, Morgan heads to work, and news breaks that Warren has been found dead. But given how many enemies he had, no one seems particularly concerned or surprised. Everyone knew what kind of man he was. Meanwhile, Rob and Leon, 2 of the men who killed George and his wife, assume a rival. Warren's business partner, Caleb, is responsible for his death. They confront Caleb at gunpoint, but he denies any involvement. When his girlfriend pulls a gun in his defense, Caleb warns them firmly never to come near him again, and they back off. Griffin meets with Jimmy, revealing he knows Jimmy killed Warren, and urges him to stop this cycle of revenge, warning that he's only punishing himself in the process. Jimmy fires back, arguing that the police are useless, that the city is overrun with criminals who've ruined countless lives while officers stay buried in paperwork, mocked openly by the very criminals they're supposed to stop. He walks away. Soon after, another crime rocks the city, a home robbery ending in murder. Griffin watches the aftermath unfold, and when his superior Holland arrives, his casual, dismissive attitude confirms everything Jimmy said. Holland brushes off the victim's death entirely, noting the man's family will simply collect a large insurance payout and move on. Meanwhile, Jimmy tracks down his next target, a man named Ryan, ambushing him in a restroom. Despite fighting back, Ryan is quickly overpowered and knocked unconscious. Jimmy takes him to an isolated location, ties him to a chair, and forces cement down his throat through a tube, killing him in agony. The next day, police discover the scene, and Holland realizes someone is systematically hunting down gang members across the city, and if he can crack this case, it could mean a major promotion. Motivated by ambition, he throws himself into the investigation. At a restaurant called Dibs, he reviews security footage and spots Jimmy's face clearly, loading an unconscious man into his trunk. The restaurant owner, frightened, tells her husband they shouldn't hand the footage over to police, but he insists they have no choice. Police head to Morgan's house looking for Jimmy, but she lies, claiming she hasn't seen him in days even though he's actually hiding inside and furious with him for his behavior. Jimmy still won't answer her questions and leaves the house. Outside, he runs into 2 officers preparing to arrest him, but a car pulls up, and 2 men step out and knock the officers unconscious. It's Colonel Leach, who tells Jimmy to get in the car. Leach explains that Jimmy is considered one of the most capable soldiers Special Ops has ever had, and that they don't want him getting into serious trouble. He gives Jimmy 24 hours to finish whatever he's doing before returning to duty, promising their full support in the meantime. Meanwhile, Griffin learns the entire police force is now actively hunting Jimmy. He tries talking down a sniper named Joe, explaining that Jimmy is his friend, that his parents were brutally murdered, and that Holland's real motivation is career advancement, not justice, reminding Joe that Holland is a corrupt officer who will only bring more corruption with a promotion. Meanwhile, Leon receives a mysterious envelope at a club containing a photo depicting his own death staged as a robbery. Terrified, he tries to flee, but Jimmy catches and subdues him. Hours later, Leon wakes up bound outside, his legs chained to a gate and his hands tied to Jimmy's car. After extracting the answers he needs, Jimmy simply drives away, tearing Leon's body in half. Holland, meeting Leach at a cafe, is pressured to hand over all evidence against Jimmy and drop the case entirely, with Leach warning him not to draw the attention of Special Ops or the CIA. Holland refuses. Leach then reveals just how dangerous Jimmy truly is, recounting how an entire army unit failed to solve a major bombing case back in 2009, until Jimmy was brought in and cracked it in just 10 minutes. He warns Holland that anyone hunting Jimmy will either be killed by him or watch him vanish without a trace, and that continuing this pursuit means going up against Special Ops directly. Following this, the police commissioner meets with the army chief, who instructs him to drop the case against Jimmy entirely and destroy any existing evidence, since Jimmy remains one of their most valuable assets. The commissioner agrees, promising to report directly to them the moment he learns anything new about Jimmy's activities. Meanwhile, Jimmy captures Rob again, dragging him to another hideout where he systematically kills a group of drug dealers. Rob manages to escape in the chaos, but Jimmy tracks down Caleb instead, tortures him, extracts the chemical formula used to manufacture their drugs, and ultimately kills him using that same chemical. Holland, discovering Griffin's friendship with Jimmy, summons him to his office demanding information on Jimmy's next target. Griffin refuses to talk, reminding Holland that his superiors already warned him to back off. Holland ignores this entirely and instead learns Rob has been injured and is currently in the hospital. He and Rob strike a deal. Rob will go to Jimmy's house, sift through his mail, and then leave. The next day, Jimmy catches Rob again and drags him to an isolated location, preparing to inject him with something agonizing. Rob spits at him, sneering that Jimmy has no idea what he's actually done, telling him to check the trunk of his car. Inside, Jimmy discovers Morgan's dead body, murdered by Rob. Consumed with fury, Jimmy empties his entire gun into Rob's chest. Holland arrives with a full SWAT team surrounding Jimmy, but Griffin steps in and stops them, confronting Holland directly, calling him a wolf rather than a human being, accusing him of deliberately releasing Rob, knowing full well he'd go after Morgan. Holland admits it outright, yes. He let Rob go specifically because he knew it would draw Jimmy out. Hearing this, the SWAT team backs down entirely, reporting to headquarters that Jimmy has escaped. Furious, Holland grabs a gun and tries pursuing Jimmy himself, but Jimmy simply knocks him to the ground with one punch. No one stops him as he walks away in full view of everyone. Time passes. One night, a woman steps outside to take out her trash, only to be grabbed by two men attempting to assault her. Jimmy appears. They tell him to walk away. Instead, he smiles, because he already knows exactly what he's about to do to both of them. This is his purpose now, hunting down every person, destroying innocent lives. And with that, the film comes to an end. So friends, that's our video for today. If you enjoyed it, please like it, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.